Music's greatest songs. Greatest songs. Worth covering. Original classic hitmakers.
Now I'm going to really shame myself and admit that I have been looking for this song for a while. I heard it on something I've been watching on Netflix, and that there was a sort of an 80s, 90s thing, and this song was on, and I turned to my family and went, that song, I need to do that song. I want to know about that song. And they were like, yeah, whatever. Anyway, wrote it down because I knew it was called Self-Control. Kept thinking it was Miami Sound Machine. Got nowhere searching for it. Ended up doing a load of other stuff. It's not Miami Sound Machine at all. I couldn't have been more wrong. It's Laura Branigan, who is actually more famous for other songs, or rather you might know her from other songs, but this remains her biggest hit. She didn't write it. It was a cover. But when she sings it, it's incredible. So let's talk about her, because she's an amazing, or she was an amazing artist. We did lose her, and I'll tell you about that too. Her name is Laura Ann Branigan. 1952 she was born. Who knew? She was an American singer-songwriter. She's also an actress. And she had a platinum certified album. Well, the single, first of all, let's talk about that, Gloria. So who remembers Gloria? That's just, I'm even saying it with the wrong intonation because it's Gloria in the song. Obviously, Gloria. That's from 1982. It stayed on the US Billboard Hot 100 for the 38 weeks, that song. Total disco tune. And that was a record for a female artist then. It peaked at number one. It also reached number one in Australia and Canada. And so she then went on and did tours with it. She then released this one. This went to number 4. She also had success in the UK with Gloria and Self-Control. She was in the top 10, the UK singles chart. It's awful when you have to sort of look at it from a female-male perspective, but they do. And obviously she got heralded because she was a female doing all this. So her greatest level of success in the 80s was a particular album that had singles on it. Solitaire she did, and she did How Am I Supposed to Live Without You? We all remember that from, what's his name, with the crazy hair. How am I supposed
Michael
to...
Bolton.
Thank you. See, that's all I said, the crazy hair. You got it. Amazing. That was 1983 she did that one. She did Ti Amo. I know that one. I love that. She did The Power of Love. She did all these amazing things. And then, of course, the Academy Award-winning Flashdance soundtrack. That was her, people. That was her. I must make my kids watch Flashdance. She also did the Ghostbusters soundtrack. She did Miami Vice. Who remembers Miami Vice? Pass. Remember that? The original. I think they've done a remake then. In 1985, she won the Tokyo Music Festival Award with the song The Lucky One. So she's had, quite a prestigious career. Let me tell you about how she grew up. She was born in 1952 in Brewster in New York. She was the 4th of 5 kids. And there's no doubt about it, when you are born into such a big family like that, it does affect your take on the world, because you are literally being... you share your parents with 4 other human beings. It's a big deal. And she was 4th out of 5. Her mother was called Kathleen. Her father was James Branigan. You can hear the Irish in that. And she had this huge kind of Irish thing going on. Her grandparents lived in Ireland. William O'Hara. They couldn't get more Irish if you tried. But she was always about music. She went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. She worked as a waitress. Know it well. That was pretty much my acting career as well, working as a waitress. And then in 1972, she met an acoustic guitarist called Walker Daniels, and this defined her moment. She met him and his wife Sharon Storm, and they formed a band, and it was called Meadow. Everything was great. They got a bassist in. Life was good. They got an album. And they released this album, and they were obviously signed to this small label. They released the album, but the record company, for whatever reason, didn't advertise it properly. It didn't get released properly. They didn't advertise it properly. The band broke up, and at this point, we lost Walker Daniels. He was so depressed, apparently, by what happened that was it for him. And this affected her a lot, and she would refuse to talk about it. She didn't want to talk about the band, and she didn't want to talk about Walker Daniels either. She then met her husband, and she loved her husband. Her husband was a lawyer. Everything is cooking on gas. She was doing super well through the 80s, massive hits into the 90s. She had a bit of a slump, but she was starting to have a comeback. sort of around the 1993 time, about to go on global tour, and suddenly her husband died. Or rather, he got ill, and she went, enough. I am not going anywhere with you like this. She refused to accept the diagnosis and his prognosis, which is obviously what the doctors are saying his expectancy was. She nursed him, she gave up music, and through the 90s, she did that. He was her everything. And then eventually we lost him. And at that point, she went, okay, I'm going to return to music. And she did. And then she had this huge resurgence. So sort of late 90s, she suddenly had this resurgence, and there were all these disco tunes that she was doing. Everyone started listening to again, which is really nice. And there are a few that flick up. I mean, I love a good disco tune, or they're mixed, and other people are bringing them to the fore. And she also did Moonlight on Water, which became a huge anthem. And this was a top 30 adult contemporary hit, but like massive, massive, massive anthem, and everybody was singing that. So I'm going to go and find that as well. And in 2001, she returned to the stage. She was going to do so much. There were global tours planned. Everything was fine. And on August the 26th in 2004, she was 52 years old. She died in her sleep. And actually, it was a shock to everyone. No one understood why or what or how. She was perfectly fine when she went to bed, and she just had a brain aneurysm. So her legacy and her story is there's so many highs and lows. There's so much light and shade. There's so much sadness, but so much glory. And she was this incredible talent. She was an amazing producer as well. And some of her credits in the middle of her career was she started producing albums. She did Celine Dion's one. She wrote for Celine Dion. She did these amazing things. And in the background, she had all this sadness. So now you know about the artist. You can now listen to the song and enjoy it properly. This is from the album called Laura Branigan, and it's Self-Control, and it is actually her biggest hit, even though you might know her from something else. This is the one that people over and over again absolutely love.
It's Yalla Home.
With Ana Schofield
And Big Hass.